And we're back on the Fowler Show. We're joined by Tarik Ross from No Guns Allowed, peace ambassador, good friend of mine, a new good friend of mine, and now a good friend of the Fowler Show. Tarik, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Now, I got to tell you, this No Guns, after the single came out, and, you know, what we sort of seen with the Stand Your Ground law stuff and what happened down in Florida, No Guns Allowed has just taken this country by storm.
Well, it's a good thing. We're trying to inform people that although there's a huge debate going on in Washington over, you know, universal background checks, gun laws, and, you know, our thing is let's stay focused on what's happening in communities of color, the gun violence. No Guns Allowed, obviously, the song with Snoop Lion and Drake and his daughter, Snoop's daughter, Corey B, was mainly just speaking on, you know, no guns allowed, you know, tonight we're going to have a good time, you know, it's a song. But we know that in communities of color, oftentimes there's a lot of lower income areas, a lot of gun violence. We want to just kind of change the conversation a bit as it relates to our communities and, unfortunately, the gun violence that happens in our community. So we just want to keep the awareness campaign going to target a certain demographic, and also to let, you know, policymakers and influencers know that there is a flip side of this conversation. It's not just only about policy, you know, gun law and gun restrictions.
I love that, because you're completely right, Tarik. It's not just about saying we have universal background checks or passing a law that says that you can't, you know, there can't be straw purchasers. It's about having a broader conversations with not only, you know, not only what's happening in Newtown and Aurora, but also having conversations in the black and brown communities about how we stop the violence amongst each other.
Absolutely, because, you know, depending on where you reside, where you work, you know, unfortunately, again, you know, violence in communities of colors, and it's something that we have to talk about. It can't just be, unfortunately, what happened to Trayvon Martin, you know, the national awareness that case brought. It can't just be, you know, these kind of one-off incidents that happen. Unfortunately, the tragic incidents, but the daily acts of violence, the gun violence that happens, you know, all too often, and what needs to be done about it. You know, we have to also have that conversation on Capitol Hill as well. I mean, you have the Youth Promise Act that's been on the table for numerous years in D.C., so it's kind of like, well, what are we going to do? Okay, well, you could talk about the background checks, but what are we going to do down in Compton, California, Southeast Washington, South Side of Chicago? What are we going to do about young people being shot down?
That's a great question, and what's the answer to that, Tarik? What are we going to do?
Well, number one, we have to know that each and every one of us in this country is impacted by gun violence, and that gun violence is a public safety and a public health issue. It's not just a law enforcement problem, you know, in the hood where, oh, let's just get cops on the streets. No, every person has a say in this matter in making our country safer. Every individual has something to contribute, and people need to know that they have something to contribute, and we all must get involved at any level. If you're a school teacher, a crossing guard, if you are a school bus driver, you have a voice, you have a say. You can do something, you know, in terms of talking to our young people to let them know there's a better way to solve and resolve conflict. We don't have to resort to violence.
Yeah, and, you know, violence isn't, and I think that, sadly, that seems to be the conversation missing from this dialogue. And I tell people all the time, there's a huge distinction. And I'll say this point, and I'll piss some people off, but it's fine. There's a huge distinction between what we saw happen in Newtown and Aurora and Tucson and what's happening on the southeast DC, or the south side of Chicago, or Compton, or Miami, Florida. Those are two different instances in which we've got to do a better job of working with our young people and really trying to break down what the social stigmas, and beyond that, ending the school-to-prison pipeline, all these things playing together, if you ask me.
No, clearly. I do a lot of work also with the American program with the Hall of Fame football great Jim Brown. I've been doing that for over 20 years. So that's hands-on work. I go into juvenile detention centers. We teach a life skills curriculum. We're trying to teach young people, boys and girls, in these poor communities in Los Angeles County how to live a better life, how to take charge of your life, to understand that you can be successful despite growing up in a South LA, Watts or Compton, or Southeast Washington or wherever you may be, that you have a choice in the matter. Are you going to just accept what's going on in your environment, or are you going to do something about it? Like myself, I was once a young, hopeless person living in a poor community, broken family, feeling like, oh, I can only go so far in America. Oh, I can only do so much. The system will only let me achieve so much success. But throughout the course of my journey, I had to meet new people, new friends, latch on to mentors who had a positive message, something of hope, something of self-determination, that ultimately graduated high school, not getting caught up to the gang violence going on around me. So that message of hope and those skills that are being taught through the American program, it's just an example. It's one thing that's working here in Los Angeles that has worked for a long time. There are other efforts going on around the city as well. So these are just examples of what people are doing on the grassroots level, hands-on, touching people. We need people doing work on every level. We need the advocates, we need the policymakers, we need the civic leaders, and we also need those non-traditional grassroots leaders, people right from the community who are hands-on, who you see every day. Maybe a volunteer football coach at the Pee Wee Football League in your community, but everybody has a role to play in making our environment safer and better.
And I love that. I think you're completely right. Everybody has a role to play, and no matter where you sit, no matter where you're sitting, you've got to get involved in, pouring into the next generation and those that are younger than us. And I think it's something it's a profound thing. I mean, because if it weren't for, and I think you could say the sort of same thing, Tarik, if it wasn't for somebody pouring into me, I wouldn't be in the place that I'm in, and I wouldn't be able to have and occupy the space that I occupy, both here on the show and here on television. And I think the same goes for Snoop Lion and everybody else, is that what we've got to do, those of us who, I guess, How I Came Over reminds me of the Mahalia Jackson song, we've got to go back and empower those young people who are right behind us, say, listen, you can do it too, and don't resort to gun violence, and don't resort to being, joining a gang, or don't resort to being a truant, and really focus in and hone in on the fact that you can make it out of the situation you're currently in.
Oh, absolutely. Just to mention, Snoop founded a youth football league, which is now in its 9th season as we speak, right here in Los Angeles in the inner city, and it has touched over 3,500 young people. And currently, there's about 2,000 young people, and there's a cheer program for girls as well. And this is a program, it's sports, but the young people must have a certain academic level of achievement before they're allowed to play. And it's the one-to-one mentoring. A lot of those coaches are former gang members. You have people in communities who are giving back, all over this country, who are donating their time, who are volunteering, they're buying cleats for the kids, or they're driving kids home, and those conversations in the car, that hands-on care, that hands-on love and compassion, it's been demonstrated all over our society, and it's happening in little pockets, in little corners of the community all over. And it's a great thing. I see it on a regular basis. I have friends who are coaches. And that's just an example. A person could be a tutor, after school program. A lot of people feel like, well, I grew up kind of upper middle class. Well, what can I tell a kid that's in the street hanging out? It's not really about that. If you care about young people, you want to see our society change and be better, if you have a heart of compassion, you want to do some good work, you can make a change, period. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be from the projects. You don't need to, have been to jail. I mean, I've never been to jail, thank God. But seriously, everybody has a voice. Everybody can make a difference. A lot of people are making a difference. This show, I believe, is making a difference. Just to have the conversation. I met you a few weeks ago in Washington. I'm way out here on the West Coast. Having these types of dialogues, encouraging people to keep doing what they're doing, comparing notes, coming together. To me, this technology, we're making a difference already.
No, totally. I think you're completely right, Tarik. We're making a difference already, and we need to continue to make that difference in our community. I can't say it enough. I hate that it's such a cliche word to say, oh, we just go out and mentor and get involved, but that's really what you got to do. You got to show these kids, these babies, some love. And I guarantee we do that enough, we can really, really change this country and fundamentally change the world. We want to thank you so much for being on the show, Tarik. We appreciate you.